Today on Conversations With, we're going to be talking to Archangel Raphael, who I have really enjoyed speaking to on occasion. And at one point I talked to about time. So I'm going to talk to him a little bit about time. But also the other question that came up that wanted to be asked of him was about war. Time, war, isn't it all interesting? So that's where we're going today with Archangel Raphael. And as usual, when I raise my hand, that means that it's me in my form, and then my embodied channel is going to come through as Archangel Raphael. My voice may change a little bit, or it may not change at all. What is your sense of time as it is experienced from your perspective as an archangel? How long was it that I just sat in silence? How long was it when I, as a being who sits outside of time, came into this world and created a pause in which there was uncertainty, in which there was perhaps resistance? Perhaps it felt as if that pause were so long. Perhaps you're not even here anymore. Perhaps you have found that your attention is moved elsewhere. The way that we see time is a matter of a direct conduit to resistance. When you go to sleep at night, you go into a resistless state. You leave the confines of the physical body while the physical body restores itself. And in that process, you experience time as if there is no time. You experience the time in which we experience time. Anything can go at any pace. Something that is relative to you is completely relative to you and to no one else. You could live an entire 30 years in a dream night, and you would never necessarily notice that there is any difference between those 30 years or 30 seconds. When we go to sleep on Christmas Day, waking up on Christmas Day, we experience the world in which everything has gone by very quickly, and the time in which we go to sleep, before we go to sleep, may experience the resistance of life, and it feels as if it will never come. You had this experience as a child, as a cultural Christian who experiences the slowness of Christmas Eve. Time is simply a matter of how much you put on the brakes. The more that you resist reality, the slower time goes. And this is oftentimes not a resistance that you've chosen. This is a resistance that is difficult or grating or waiting. Something is in your wanting action to move faster. And so because of it, you develop severe resistance to the world and thus slows down time. Whereas the more that you are in a flow state, the more that you are relaxed, the more that you are in a place of bliss, the faster time goes. The more that you find and cultivate the resistless state, the faster time goes. Not only that, but you're able to skip through time in a way that you haven't experienced before. When you completely go into a resistless state, it becomes almost as if a dream state here on earth. So the trick is, if you were to want to control time, what you would do is simply experience the world as a form of resistance that is voluntary. You have talked about this in the past, and this is a very important concept. Being in the now, being in the holy power of the now, being in the power of now, all of these experiences are experiences in which we say that we would like to voluntarily become sensitive to the eternal in this very moment. Many people interpret the now as, I'm going to hear exactly what sounds I can hear right now. I'm going to hear exactly what my heartbeat feels like in this very moment, or what my breath feels like in this very moment, or what the light looks like in this very moment. And they take the now to mean time. That is not what is referred to when it was referred to the now. What is referred to the now is becoming sensitive to the resistless parts of you, to the eternal parts of you. Those things that you interpret as gratitude, love, compassion, all those things that resist time in any way, shape, or form. That is the true power of now, when you become in a relaxed and resistless state while still staying present in this moment. In those moments, time slips by very, very quickly. And yet we recognize that we can become conscious of how time moves through us. If we would like for time to move in a very different pace, what we do is we start to develop the ability to have time in that eternal sense in which there is no time, held at the same time as the sensorial time, the temporal experience. In other words, here is an example. If you would like to control time, this is what you can do. I am developing a sensitivity to the eternal parts of me. I feel gratitude for this moment right now. I would love for this moment to last longer. I am so grateful that I'm having this moment to say goodbye to this loved one. I am so glad that I'm having this moment to connect with my child. I am so glad to have this moment to be with a friend. I am so glad to have this moment of quiet to myself. And you say, I am so grateful for this. And that's what evokes that eternal sense of the actual power of now. And then you say, and now let me figure out the senses. I'm going to become deeply aware of the state of resistance that allows physical reality to arise. In other words, how does this chair feel holding my body up? How does this room smell? How does this experience of pressure on my body feel? And then you hold these two truths, these two realities, your very temporal resistant reality, which senses the physical world around you, and your eternal sense. And by doing this, you can stretch time in ways that you never knew that you could before, without being in a state of contraction and resistance that is a negative form of resistance that simply allows time to skip all over the place. Does this make sense? It does. Thank you. That's a very practical tip. I can feel that in my body too when you say that. So one of the questions that was asked to ask you is, what is the purpose of war? It's funny that you say the word purpose as if there is a purpose for violence. It's not so much that there is a purpose. It's the things that come off of this. And this is something that you know that you teach often with your clients, is this idea that for humans, they are discovering their ability to strategically create in the world. And yet right now, it is in a very transactional place. This is due in one part to the insensitivity that has been increasing as people have felt more pain in their body and felt more aversion to being in their body. But it's also a matter of recognizing that the transactional nature of the world is something that is evolving. And it is something that we are needing to understand. And so where it feels like we are becoming more transactional, more insensitive, actually we find that there is an undercurrent of people being born in the last 40 to 50 years, if not longer. And this undercurrent is those who are exceptionally sensitive and exceptionally strategic in the way that they think. Some people may refer to them as neurodivergent people, though everybody is neurodivergent in one way or another, or evolving to be so within their life. There is no hierarchy, as you know. And so war is a remnant of a transactional mindset, one that says, if I do this, then this will happen. The strategic mindset recognizes even the strategy that you see on Earth currently is not, it's still transactional. It says, I'm going to do these 5 things and hope that I get this one outcome. It feels strategic simply because you are encompassing more transactions. And yet, what we recognize is that the true strategic mind is continually listening to what energy is speaking to them, is continually listening to more than the transactions that they create into action. There are inhumane experiences, there is suffering that happens all over this world, so much so at this time. And what is being asked of us is that we are strategic, truly strategic, spiritually strategic about the way that we undergo the experience of suffering that comes with this remnant of transactional mindset that is war. War does not have a purpose. It is something that is a remnant and a glimmer of an old and outdated problem. in which we recognize that we think that direct action is the only way to change the world. The more that we are able to bring this out, the more that we come to the conclusions and the understanding that it is in fact all of the things that come off of war that is ultimately its purpose. What comes off of it is more compassion, more sensitivity, more humanity, more desire and activism, more awakening of people to become more strategic about the action that they take, recognizing that they cannot meet transaction with transaction. They have to meet transaction with a much more spiritually strategic viewpoint. So if there was a purpose to war, the purpose to war would be the awakening of humanity. Thank you, Archangel Raphael. I really appreciate your time and wisdom.